I guess the point of first and FRC is that students learn about, you know, mechanical problems and things themselves. They learn to troubleshoot and things like that. But as a mentor, you guys are most likely to identify a problem and probably know how to fix it before the students do. So how much do you tell your students, in terms of what's wrong and, how to fix that? Or when do you step back and say, okay, well, it's not that big of an issue, so let's let them work it out for themselves? Jerry.
My method, I typically, in any circumstance, I usually start asking questions back at them, because they'll ask me a question like, why isn't it working? And I said, well, you just kind of start through it, and I don't really have a good example off the top of my head, but you just start asking questions of what should they be looking for. And you kind of let them figure it out as you go through, but you question them so that they're actually answering their own questions. And you kind of get to take a hands-off approach at the same time watching them figure it out on their own.
Yeah, I guess for us, we spend a lot of time obviously practicing, and we use a lot of that time to train them in how to fix problems, whether it's tripping breakers or whatever it is. Again, through asking questions like Jerry said, but you have a lot more time when you're just practicing, and that's good for them to get experience. So they'll get a lot of hands-on time there. At a competition, when there's time constraints between matches, like something's wrong and you have 3 matches to go, we'll probably take more of a lead in problem solving, but that doesn't mean the students are any less capable. And by the time they've gone through all our driver training and practice, they're quite capable of fixing pretty much anything, or at least finding, sorting it out, digging to the bottom of it. And really, they just learn a lot through working with us on problems. We may have the answers, but a lot of this stuff is not things we deal with day to day either. So there's a lot of learning in it for us, and we work with our students side by side. And they learn a lot just from working with us and how we work through a problem that's new to us.
So when you have one of these problems, how do you quickly help the students identify which area it's in? Software, mechanical, electrical. I mean, you talked about going through each one, but sometimes it's a blaringly obvious software problem, and that might be what you normally do last. So how do you walk them through that step of which area is the problem in? Why don't we start with you, Steve?
Unless something's fallen off the robot, it's usually not mechanical, or fallen off or bent. We'll then do a quick check with electrical, and at that point, you can sort of narrow it down to software if everything looks okay electrically. As soon as we get back to the pits, and this is something I encourage other teams to do, before we go out for a match, but certainly when we get back from a match, we'll do a quick functional test of the whole robot, every function that it does. We'll get the drivers, make sure we go forward and back and turn, so the wheels are going opposite ways. And so it's just it's a sanity check that everything is working the way you expected it to. If the robot's been on the field and the drivers come back and something's not right and they're saying, I'm trying to turn and it's not, then it's a quick, okay, have we lost a chain? Have we lost victors on one side? If not, why is the software not responding? I think it comes down to how quickly you break it down to its software. We'll still check everything first, because if software is working one match and then something doesn't work, it's unlikely that software has suddenly changed.
Okay, Jerry?
I agree with that. It's really hard to, you're not programming your robot to program itself. You're programming your robot to do the same thing over and over and over again and the same expected functions. So really, I don't know if anybody's read the Einstein report, but that's something where it would be software that was really, really hard to detect. And and I don't blame them at all whatsoever for how that happened and how it was hard to find, because that was not an expected issue. And when you get down to where it's software like that, look how long it took to figure out what it was. It's really hard when it gets down to software, and it's really the software that's the problem.